All right, don't want to have problems like this in the spring? Well, if you're putting your truck away for the winter time, this is what I do to make sure your diesel truck will start in the spring. You don't have any problems, you don't have rust problems, you don't have any problems. Well, I shouldn't say any problems, but try to prevent problems. So if you're the normal type of dude using the truck, not doing off-road stuff or any of that type of stuff, you know, like this type of stuff, this is how I recommend to do your winter service. If you're putting the truck away for the winter time, is a little bit different than if you're going to run the truck all winter. But we'll talk about both of those two things. A lot of guys now that are getting into, you know, something like this maybe, Grizzly, or even just a pickup truck that you don't want to drive in the wintertime. There's some things you want to do to make sure you don't have problems. So let's talk about the fluid side of things, and then maybe we'll talk more about the truck. Maybe in part 2, we'll talk about the truck more. All right, so very first thing that I recommend doing is you want to go ahead and check all your fluids. You're gonna wanna check your rear diff fluid, your front diff fluid, if it's 4-wheel drive, and then transmission and transfer case. Basically, when you get to that point, what you're gonna wanna do is check the fluid to see how much fluid is in it, and then also whether it's milky. So obviously, automatic transmission fluid is gonna be different than standard transmission fluid, but you're just looking for it to be, whether it's like a murky color. Most likely if you worked on trucks at any length, you're going to know what watery fluid looks like, right? So I'll put a picture here. So it kind of looks like that. If that's the case, you're gonna wanna flush that stuff. If it looks okay and it's been serviced within, you know, the recommended rate of time, which is I go way under that, you're good to go as far as that type of stuff goes. So now you've done that. Underneath the hood of the truck, you're gonna wanna check your coolant. Obviously, at least the level in it. I would recommend making sure that it's up to par as far as it's not acidic and it is good for whatever temperatures you get into. Now, I honestly don't usually check mine, and the reason for that, I change my engine all the time because I'm bad for that type of stuff. Changing engines anyways. I personally, even on a truck that I'm keeping together or a vehicle, even just a normal vehicle, even just my SRT8 Jeep that I have, I'm changing pretty much all the fluids once a year. Or a dump and fill. I shouldn't say completely changing them, but if I'm going more than a year, I do a dump and fill, which is way more than you need, but that's how I do it. Take it, heated advice, whether you like it or not, that is how I do it. Then, obviously, you know, check your air filter, that type of stuff. Now, we're into that basic part of it, or past that basic part now. Now we're getting into fuel and engine oil. And that one is kind of a debated thing. Now, if you're storing a pickup truck or, you know, like kind of like that Grizzly or an RV, I treat them all the same. Now, at the very least, I'm changing the oil, okay? Put whatever brand oil you want to in there. I'm not gonna get into that right now, but use whatever oil you want. Change the oil right before you put it away. Like, change it, put it away. Now, change oil and filters. There again, we'll get into that in another video. But change the oil, change the filter right away. Engine oil, that's basic. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything, but what I would do at a basic level. Now, talking about fuel, I like to make sure that the truck is rightful vehicle. Doesn't even need to be truck. Anything you're putting away needs to be right full. I'll go to the gas station, I fill it with diesel fuel of its brand, and then put it away. Now, I personally, when I do it, I usually, I fill it as much as I can, the fuel station, I bring it back, and then I'll actually top it up so it's like right full. That's how I do it. Don't have to do it that way, that's how I do it. Now, that's at a basic level, basic. I like to be above basic myself personally. So what I do on your fuel, or on your, let's start with your oil. I am going to always run some sort of a fuel or an oil additive. That's me, that's what I do. You know, your oil, you can do whatever you want. We're gonna get into that in the podcast. For you guys that don't know, I'm starting a podcast. Talking to a bunch of different people about different stuff, but all diesel related for the most part. Anyways, what I am going to be running in the wintertime and all of my stuff for stuff that sits is going to be this stuff. This is what I'm going to run for an oil additive. Now, and the reason for that, and technically it's an RV blend. The reason that I want to use the RV stuff, you can use it all year round if you want. The reason I want to use the RV stuff is it's designed to stabilize for stuff that does a lot of sitting. RVs tend to do a lot of sitting. So it has a little bit of different chemical makeup, I guess is the right word, for stuff that does a lot of sitting. And it also does protecting and all that stuff. Now, if you're gonna run that, this is me. I personally would add some to that, probably at least a few 100 kilometers before you change your oil. I know it's expensive, but engines are expensive. So take it as you may. I'm gonna do my oil change. I'm gonna put that in there, and it's literally gonna run for a short period of time, and then it's getting parked. Now, if you are running it for a short period of time, you should bring it up to engine temperature before you park it. There again, do whatever you want. That's just what I do. All right, so now we're talking about fuel. Now, you don't have to add anything. Well, I shouldn't say, you should add something. Whether you do or not, completely up to you. I personally add a fuel conditioner. I add fuel conditioner to every tank of diesel fuel, no matter what I'm running. Whether it's my Bobcat, my pickup truck, skid steer. I guess I said Bobcat, didn't I? Bobcat, skid steer, whatever. Whatever I'm running gets fuel additive. I even in my gas stuff, everything gets fuel stabilizer. I run 93 and everything. Here nor there, whether you want to do that or not. I've always done that, never had a lot of problems. So I do that. So the product that I'm going to be using, there again, is the RV blend of fuel conditioner. And the reason for that there again is it has additive that's designed for fuel stabilization. It has lubricant and all that stuff. And the reason I want to run that is it's designed for stuff that sits, right? You want something that's designed for sitting. Now, I way over-treat my diesel fuel. Now, that's something that I would like to talk to some fuel additive guys. I've always run heavy on fuel additive just because I want to make sure the lubricity is good and all that type of stuff. Now, I run additives when I'm running diesel fuel. If you're talking black diesel or alternative fuels, that's a different ball of wax, which I still run additive in that as well, but we won't get into that today. That'll be a different video. But I always put an ounce of the Hot Shot Secrets, which is an ounce does 25 gallons, so which is like 100 liters ish, right? So the average pickup truck, I guess, 1 ounce per tank, or 1 ounce per 25 gallons. Now I put an ounce at least every time I put fuel in, at least. Sometimes I even put a little bit more. Now with the diesel fuel, or with the RV stuff, and I know it's going to be sitting for a long time, I personally usually put 5 or 6 ounces in, and then I run the truck a little bit. Now I also do recommend changing your fuel filter right before you fill it up. Make sure your fuel filter is good and clean. Dump that. What I do is I dump all that fuel additive and then go fill the truck up. So it gets time to work its way through the system and everything gets loaded up with that conditioner, because I want that conditioner in there, right? I want it every crack, crevice. Same with the oil additive. I want it every crack, crevice, everywhere it can be, I want it. That is what I do for my fuel side of things. And you want to make sure you're getting your fuel from a good fuel station. That also helps too. But you know, it's just what it is. Now we'll talk about batteries. Now, a lot of guys, this is kind of a debate. Some guys do it, some guys don't. Do whatever you may. Myself personally, I unhook the battery. And then I also put a little battery tender on it, kind of like this one. Myself personally, completely up to you what you want to do. By all means, do what you may. That's just what I do. You never have to worry about the truck starting. It always starts. And, well, and your battery's not crap. And for you guys that know what, you know, like an AGM or batteries in general, they're not cheap. So you don't want to be replacing that every year. Now you can pull the battery right out of the truck, put it in somewhere. If the truck's in cold storage, you can put it somewhere where it's not cold storage. Probably better for it. My trucks sit inside where it's not like warm, but it doesn't freeze. So it is what it is. Now, as far as starting the truck and circulating stuff around in the wintertime, I'm not a proponent of that. And the reason for that is you start it up, shut it off, start it up, start it up, shut it off, start it up, shut it off. You get condensation, you get fuel dilution, all that type of stuff for no benefit. There really is no benefit to do that. Now, if you want to be super proactive, if you want, you can just go in, bar the motor over a little bit so a certain valve spring isn't pushed the whole time. Honestly, I don't really pay attention. It doesn't matter to me. If it's a race motor, then myself personally, I go in and loosen all the rockers off so that none of the springs are pushed down. Also makes it so it won't start if somebody tries to steal it. But usually if that's the case, you know, it doesn't have batteries in it, might not even have tires on it. And for the starting and shutting off, I know lots of people that's a debate that lots of people have. And from what I've seen with oil analysis, you know, watched guys' videos, talked to different guys. Lake Speed actually just did a video talking about it. If you know who Lake Speed is, he's the oil geek. You know, like it's one of those things where I would like to, you know, guys to understand why not to do it. And the reason not to do it is because it screws up the oil. You'll do more damage to the engine starting it and shutting off, starting it, shutting off than you ever will for it just sitting there. So that's just don't start it. It's that easy. Don't worry about it. You don't need to worry about it. Good to go. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Like, man, if you're storing it, that's really all you need to do. Another thing that you can do if you want, which is kind of a bit overboard if you really want to, I don't do it myself personally, is jack the truck up and put it on jack stands so the suspension isn't set. And also actually something else. And then also your tires aren't loaded the whole winter. I honestly don't do it, but you know, you could do it. It doesn't hurt anything, but you can do it. Something else that I just thought of. Don't mind this crazy pinion angle. Part of the reason the truck's here for me to fix. If you have greasable U-joints, you should grease your U-joints. U-joints, tie rod ends, kingpins in this instance, but ball joints, tie rod ends. Should grease anything that is greasable. If you want to get right carried away, you could actually do a brake service on it too, so your brakes aren't sitting there all, like your sliders and all that stuff aren't locking up from sitting. I honestly don't do it, but it wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if you're changing wheels over and stuff. You could do that. You know, I do brake services quite often on all my stuff. So like probably once a year I do brake services if I've driven it. So not maybe a bad idea, but you know, I think that's pretty much it. If you guys are doing all that stuff, you're going to be in good shape. Also, after you check your antifreeze coolant, you should check your brake fluid. Make sure your brake fluid is not water saturated, because brake fluid is hydroscopic. So it means it takes on water. So that'd be something maybe you could do. Check that, make sure you don't have a brake fluid problem. You're probably checking, if you got something that you put away in the winter, you're probably checking it quite often, but maybe not. It's one of those things that a lot of people forget about, being that it does take on water. So that's maybe something to check. If you like this video, check out this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.